Hey everybody, Meteorologist Alex Williams here with you, and we're going to break down something that's probably on everybody's mind right now, right? Thanksgiving. Believe it or not, if you don't know already, yeah, it's next week. Can you even believe that the holidays are upon us already? It seems like this year has flown by. But yes, Thanksgiving is next week, and that's what we're going to talk about here. For the next couple of minutes or so. Is your Thanksgiving forecast? No, we don't know the exact details of the forecast, but we can get some pretty good ideas by looking at some of the weather tools that we'll use. So that's kind of what we're going to do through this session, starting with the jet stream. Jet stream, very important course in meteorology, right? Because we talk about it, and you can see all the different colors. We're going to break down what those mean and how they can kind of help us look ahead as to guess what the pattern's going to be like, right? Is it going to be warm? Is it going to be cold? How do you need to dress if you're running a turkey trot across the area? You know, how do you need to dress and what do you need to plan for when it comes to weather impacts across the triad as well, or beyond, of course. Wednesday, one of the busiest travel days, always that day before Thanksgiving. So here we are. This is the upper level pattern. So what we're looking at is the jet stream winds, and we got a bunch of pretty colors on here to kind of help us illustrate what's going on and to tell the story. So you see the warmer air here. This is kind of where the warm air punches up. We call that a ridge. And then where you see the cooler air kind of sliding southward, we call that a trough. So that just means cooler air, ridge, warmer air. And so we're going to continue to see this pattern evolve as we go through the weekend. So here we go into our Saturday. What are we noticing? There's the warmer air back off across the southern plains, right? And then also we notice kind of this northwest wind flow pattern that has brought a lot of those quick moving areas of low pressure and cold fronts that we've seen where we've gotten those quick doses of rain, but really it hasn't amounted to much across the triad. So as we go into your Sunday, kind of that Friday, Saturday, we're watching one system move through pretty quickly. And then as we go into Monday, watch the warmth now start to build here as we go into that very busy week, right, of travel for a lot of folks, especially for that week of Thanksgiving, or maybe you're doing some last-minute Thanksgiving preps. It's going to be nice and mild as we go into at least our Monday or Tuesday. And so watch as we move through here towards Thanksgiving Day. Now, what have you noticed, right? The colors have gotten progressively cooler colored, right? So that means this cool air, you can see this trough of cooler air punches across parts of the Great Lakes, and yes, it could indeed bring impacts in cooler weather to parts of the triad as we go into our Thanksgiving. So we'll have to watch those temperatures. We're going to be kind of, depending on how quickly the system moves, does it move quicker than anticipated or slower? Again, we're going to hone in on those details as we get closer and closer to Thanksgiving. So this is kind of just a big picture overview, right? And so we are looking at maybe some cooler weather towards the evening hours for our Thanksgiving. And then beyond that, well, if you like the cooler air, we got plenty of it for you. So notice here as we go into Black Friday, a lot of you going out for those deals, well, it could be cool across parts of the area. And then the trend overall looks very cool as we go to end out not only the week of Thanksgiving, but also beyond. And so you can see this upper level pattern here with that trough, cooler air punching in across the east, and then that warmer air, of course, building across the west. And so that's kind of what our upper level pattern is telling us, right? So we're going to see that warm up ahead of that storm system that moves through maybe midweek, and then followed by a cool down, right, for the end of November into December. So that's our upper level pattern. One thing I want to go over with you real quick is just kind of this temperature trend. So I'll pop myself off here. And so what we're talking about is normal for this time of year is 59 degrees. This is going to be very important in the next couple of graphics that I show you. All right, so our average 59. Hey, today it was nice and toasty, right? And those mid 70s. And then tomorrow looking cooler. And then into our Friday, looking at the upper 60s, lower 70s, into our Saturday, Sunday, mid 60s. Notice these mid 60s still above average for this time of year, so 59. So when we're saying above average, we're saying above the average high and even low for this time of year. So the average high for this time of year is 59. So that's very important as we look at the next graphic. So another tool that we can use is what we call the climate Prediction Center's outlook, right? So they issue these 6 to 10 days out, like ahead of time. and they also do 8 to 14 days. So we're going to look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, and then we're going to look at the 8 to 14 day outlook, kind of taking us through the end of November into December. Believe it or not, that's right around the corner, right? And that means Christmas and holiday season right upon us. Yikes. Hopefully you've started your Christmas shopping already. But you can see that average high there in that right-hand corner. So that's going to be important, right? 59 degrees, average low, 35 degrees, right? So there we are here. And so I'll pop myself back up here. So what we're looking at here for really that week kind of leading up through Thanksgiving is the Climate Prediction Center saying, hey, it looks like the temperature trends a little bit above average. So again, that doesn't mean 80 degrees. It just means above our average high or average low for this time of year. We're talking upper 50s, mid 30s for the average low. And so we're looking maybe slightly above that for the triad back through Atlanta and maybe the beaches there in the Carolinas. So that's at least looking out through next week. Looks like it's going to be maybe a little warmer. Now that, again, that's above average, so that doesn't necessarily go day to day for the temperature swings that we could see if a weather system moves through. And so keep that in mind as well. But again, just generally trending a little bit above average for the temperatures for this time of year. All right, now we're going to go a little further into the future where we're looking now the end of November into December. Average high still 59, average low 35, but now as we look towards the end of November into December, there's a trend in the models, long-range models that we use, of cooler weather, right? So we're going to see that trough is what we call it, pop up across the area. So that's going to bring some of the cooler air to parts of the Piedmont Triad. And so we're definitely going to be getting in on some of that ourselves. And again, this is slightly below average, so we're not talking necessarily temperatures only being highs in the 30s, right? We're talking highs being slightly cooler than the upper 50s. So below average, you know, if I put out a number out there, let's say 50 degrees, right? That's not necessarily super cold, but it's still below average. So that gives you an idea of what we're talking about here. So the end of the month of November into December, yeah, it's definitely looking cool out there as well. And then looking at not only the temperatures, of course, we can look at some of the rain as well. And they're looking at our long range models here, starting off on our Monday dry and into our Tuesday as well. But what do we see? Oh, look, there's another area of low pressure, right? Moving with another cold front towards our region. So here's our area of low pressure that's moving kind of through the Great Lakes. You can see the cold front here attached with that, and that's what's causing those rain chances for Tuesday back to our west. So if you're traveling maybe back further to the west into Tennessee, into parts of Kentucky, or further to the west, you might run into some of those rain chances. If you're flying maybe to the west, you might get a little bit of some bumpy air as you fly up over that weather system. So just keep that in mind as you're traveling and going out and about. Then we get into Wednesday, right? So Wednesday, usually one of the busiest travel days of the year since it's the day before Thanksgiving. Yeah, we're going to have to contend with some showers. Some rain is what the pattern looks like. So that means bring an umbrella to your destination. That means if you're traveling here locally or really across the Carolinas, you'll at least need to look out for wet roads, hydroplaning. Wet leaves can be something that you want to watch out for this time of year, of course, as well, because that's just going to decrease the traction between you and the road and make driving a little more hazardous and a little more difficult. So watch out for those patches of wet leaves and also the wet pavement as well. And then just carry an umbrella with you. Again, we don't know the exact timing of this. This could speed up, it could slow down. And of course, that's what we're here for, right? To tell you, hey, the rain's going to come in sooner, the rain's going to come in later. And of course, stay tuned to the forecast for that, and we'll keep you updated. But that's what it's kind of looking like now. And then to end this, let's just go over some fun facts, right? Some Thanksgiving records, if you will, right? So here we've compiled a list of the wettest, the coldest, the hottest, and yeah, even the snowiest for Thanksgivings. Now, the tricky thing about Thanksgiving is, of course, Thanksgiving Day moves, right? So it's not always on the same day. It's sometimes the 22nd, sometimes it's the 28th. So we took that into consideration, of course, when we're talking snowiest. Really, we haven't seen more than a trace. Now, how about the heat? Well, yeah, we've seen that. 73 degrees, not necessarily hot, but remember, above average. 59 degrees is about where we normally sit for this time of year. And then the coldest, 25 degrees. No, it is not going to be that cold this Thanksgiving. I think it's going to be a little warmer than that, much warmer than that, actually. But as far as wettest, wow, over 1.5 inches of rainfall. Now, the other thing that I want to mention to you is what we're looking at is at PTI, right? At the airport, that's where our climate site is. That's where we keep all of the data, and it goes way back in the record for that as well. So you can see some of the days on, or the 80s were pretty prolific, right, for record setting for our Thanksgiving days. 83, 85, 89, 80. All of those years, and again, 80 being the most recent that we've seen a trace. We've actually seen a trace of snow a couple of other days as well, and we'll kind of break that down in a separate little weather hit here and weather story in the next couple of days. So be on the lookout for that. But as far as what can you plan for, probably warmer temperatures above average leading up to Thanksgiving, and then beyond that, looking maybe some cooler weather to end not necessarily just the month of November, but also to start December. Maybe some cooler temperatures. And then we're also looking at that midweek system moving in, bringing in some rain chances. Much needed rain, right? We're still dealing with a drought across much of the Carolinas, and we could use a lot of rain. Probably not going to see a lot of rain, but nonetheless some showers to contend with midweek through that holiday week, and maybe could cause some travel concerns for some of you. And then beyond that, well, we'll continue to watch things as we approach the holiday season, but we just kind of wanted to give you a good idea of what you could expect as we go towards the Thanksgiving holiday next week.